So we'll go ahead and call the special meeting to order for Tuesday, February 20th, 5 p.m. Roll call.
Mayor Edgar.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kusamoto.
Here.
Councilmember Turco.
Here.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Alrighty, special orders of the day, interview applicants for commissions. I'll let Wendy just give a quick introduction, and then just want to put a proposal on the board here, if Wendy's ready.
Okay, this is leftover from our recruitment in December. We have 2 positions left on Parks and Rec for full terms of 3 years, and 1 position finishing an unexpired term, and 1 applicant for the Traffic Commission. We have just enough applicants for our available positions, and at this time it'd be appropriate for council to interview and appoint.
Great. So we've got what appears to be really good applicants for all the positions. I'm open to just taking a look, maybe having them introduced for the ones that aren't currently on commissions, but it seems like it could be pretty quick. Does anybody have any concerns if we kind of went right to voting, or would you prefer we get an opportunity to meet a couple of these folks that we haven't had a chance to meet before?
Perhaps could we just have them introduce themselves
Sure.
and then just explain a little bit and then go to a vote? That'd be okay? That's what I was going to say.
Okay, great. I think we know Pete Carvajal, and I don't see him in here, but so we'll move on to Alexander Duran. Hi. Alexander, why don't you come up there and just introduce yourself? We won't go through. Yes, please. We wanted to thank you for applying. And,
thank you very much.
Yeah, just you can just give your introduction a little bit about yourself. That'd be great.
Great. My name is Alex Duran. I've been a resident of the community for about 10 years. Both my daughters are enrolled in the schools, one at the elementary level and one at the high school level. In talking to a couple of people, I just felt this would be a really great way to give back to the community. I'm currently a regional operations manager for a security company, so I have a lot of experience with working with FBI task force for homeland security situations, as well as security operations and procedures and things like that. And I think that I have a lot to bring to the table, and plus I'd like to be able to contribute and also have some input on what goes on in our parks.
Great. And everybody, if we ask him one question, we ask everybody one. So any other questions here?
Not one.
Alrighty. We really appreciate you coming up here. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you. Next person, Stephen Hunter. How you doing, Mr. Hunter?
Doing well, yourself?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for having me today. So my name's Stephen Hunter. I've also actually been a member of the community for about 10 years. My mom grew up here in Los Al, and her mom stayed here long after her kids had grown up and moved out. And so I think being a member of the Parks and Rec Commission would be a great opportunity to give back to the community that I feel has given so much to me.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming up here. Christine. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me here today. I grew up here. I went to LAE, McCullough, Los Al High School. I went away for school. I went away for my career. And then I came back to have my kids. Well, actually, right after I had my kids. So I really value this community. I'm really excited to be able to contribute, to provide input and be a resource for my neighbors and the community that I love.
Great, thank you so much. So Pete isn't here. Oh, he is here.
Yeah.
Pete, go ahead and just introduce to the community. I was going to say you actually did phone it in this time, but you didn't. You came in. How are you doing, sir?
Good, good afternoon. Pete Carvajal, applying for the Parks and Rec Commission position, and been a community member for many years now, going back to about 2000, and have served on the Parks and Recreation Commission in the past. So,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. So we have 3 positions for Parks and Rec and 3 applicants. We have 1 applicant for Traffic Commission and 1 opening. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve them.
Okay, do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Congratulations, everybody. Thanks for helping out our city.
Mayor Edgar, if we could just specify which applicant for Parks and Rec will have the term expiring in December 2019?
Oh, okay.
Somebody gets a 1 year?
Yeah, they serve out the rest of Mark's term. Now, is this, anybody have any suggestions?
Is anybody willing to take that term on, shorter term?
I'll take a shorter term.
Okay.
Okay, great. That's Alexander. Thank you. Good deal. Okay, we're going to move on to the second item. City Manager.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is a point in time where we review our general fund expenditures and revenues in comparison to the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. And we have a presentation that we have shared, the staff report and presentation received feedback from the Budget Standing Committee last week, and we're now presenting it to the full City Council. And with that, I will introduce Maria Luisa Valdez, our Interim Administrative Services Director, go through the PowerPoint and then answer any questions that you may have.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Could you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. So as Brett introduced, I will be going over our mid-year projections. And as a preface for today's discussion, these projections for revenues and expenditures are most likely scenarios, yet they're still estimates at this point with various assumptions. And today we will just be going over the general fund budget review. So as an overview, we'll be going over the projected 2017-18 general fund revenues and expenditures. We met with the Budget Standing Committee last week, and we incorporated their comments and modifications to the report that you have in front of you today. So, as you see in the table here, you can see that we have projected a positive budget variance of $271,000. This is primarily due to $49,000 in revenues, and most notably because expenditures is under budget for $202,000. This leaves us with about $7.388 in ending general fund balance for the general fund. So as you can see, this is positive and with a budget variance of $271,000. So that's favorable and has us in a better ending fund balance. Are there any questions with that or everything? Okay. On this slide, this is the 2017-18 general fund projected revenues. I will go over high-level variances, but let me know if you would like me to go more in detail over the revenues here. As you can see, most revenue categories are anticipated to be on target. However, there are two that have a significant variance. You'll note that licenses and permits have a projected revenue increase of approximately $202,000. The increase in this revenue category is attributed to the increase in permit revenue of about $114,000. But you'll also see later on the slides that development services has gone above budget. And this is primarily directly attributed to because they have more revenue in the permits revenue. There's more building inspections that they need to pay to the third-party contractor. So that pretty much describes the major contributor to why they have gone over budget. Another large variance you'll see here is charges for services at the bottom of, like towards the bottom. It's materially down by $188,000 estimated actuals in comparison to budget. And there's a couple of factors there. The major factors are $89,000 less for the elimination of the aquatics program. But in the expenditures, you'll also see that there are some savings of $75,000. So there's $75,000 less in expenditures for the aquatics program. So this is just, so it kind of has that decrease a little lower. And then there's also $66,000 less revenue projected for race on the base. Anything there?
So that's an important point. So in that then, the aquatics program of the 188, if you do the give backs and just to make it clear, what was the total net of those two?
For 88,000 in revenues and then less 75,000 in expenditures, so that's about 14,000.
And then with the race on the base, are you going to talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Sure. The reasons why it's down, so there's $40,000 less there in sponsorships, so 40,000 out of the 66,000 projected revenue, less projected revenue, and then the rest is just fewer registrants, and there's more restrictions on the vendors as well.
Okay.
If there's any other detail, though, Ron is here.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be able to make an accurate depiction of the restrictions on the vendors with the base and then the new agreement, and kind of differentiate, into the community. I think a lot of people, we always see the fluctuation for people joining the race near the end, but, we got to be careful that we're not subsidizing it too much too, so.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's down, it is down more this year than it has been the last couple of years, but we did get a later start this year in negotiating the MOA with JFTB.
Okay. Thank you.
There are also, just to note, there's expenditure savings as well. And we'll see that with recreation in a later slide. But before moving to expenditures, I wanted to remind the council that in the amended budget, these are the following positions are not included in the budget. So this net salary savings is already included in the budget in the next slide. So whatever savings there are in the next slide, this is above and beyond the 400,000 that has already been included in the budget. So here is where there's more notable savings, expenditure savings. As you can see, it's 202,000. This is for operating expenditures. Most departments are on target, but there are a few I'll highlight with variances. There's city attorney has projected expenditures of 36,000 over budget, and that's primarily due to the transition. And there was a couple of months using both, like transitioning from the old city attorney to our new city attorney. There's also higher projected litigation. And we've already discussed development services. It's directly related to like the higher revenue. Recreation, we discussed why there were some expenditure savings. Another savings, additional savings for that is really the departure of the department's director, and that was about 99,000 of the savings for this year, 2017-18. Another department with significant savings is police, and most of it is 183,000 due primarily to salary savings. This has to do with vacancies in the department, and then it's offset with overtime, but the net is 183 for salary savings. And there's also 38,000 due to a renegotiated contract with Redflex. So this pretty much concludes our review of revenues and expenditures. Does anyone have any questions with that?
No.
Okay.
No.
So this is the budget calendar that we have, the budget workshops. We will be meeting with the Budget Standing Committee a week or two before each regular scheduled meeting for the budget workshops. And that's for your consideration on tonight's agenda.
I had one question. When are we going to be seeing that matrix report? And the only reason I ask is because even in the mid-year review, that's recommendations are based on that report. And I'm nervous about gauging our mid-year review and also next year's budget based on the elimination of our Director of Park and Rec, based on a recommendation of a report we haven't seen.
Yeah, I understand
And
that.
there are three, just in this alone, 3 areas of loss of revenue that I feel are directly attributed to a Director of Park and Rec not being here. One of them is the adult soccer of 29,000. The other one is the 4th of July sponsors. And then the other one is the Race on the Base sponsors. And, right now I know everybody's doing a great job and working really hard, but it's just to survive. It's not to be better. It's not to get bigger. And so I want to understand the timing and making sure we're doing this in the right order, because there's recommendations in here from Matrix that we really need to see and really have a conversation about.
Yeah, I anticipate getting it, almost have a final draft at this point and getting it to the city council in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
The meeting on June 4th, is that, the other ones are kind of in sequence with regular meetings. Why is that a standout? I know we got to finish the budget by the end of the year, but is that just a kind
It's
of,
just if needed.
If needed.
But hopefully we should be finished by May. But if needed, we'll do June 4th as well.
so if the budget subcommittee does a good job, we'll be done by then?
Let's knock it out right now.
I'm just joking. Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll see the file.
So I just got a comment, and then we'll open it up here. So if you go back in your slides to the picture that shows the $400,000 that's baked into the budget based on shortfalls in
Yes.
staff, and if you could just blow that up a little. So
The 400,000 salary savings?
Yeah.
Is that unfunded? Okay.
yeah. You know, to Councilmember Hasselbrink's point, this really is not sustainable. I would also kind of put it out on the table as, Chief, you had sent us a memo that outlined kind of your perspective of how it's hard to find police officers and, you know, and some of the stuff with operations and stuff. And so I think the Parks and Rec component of that is the quality of life, that when I see the police up there, it's you know, safety, security. Chief, any perspective on, you know, maybe anything else you want to share? I know this is a great report, so no one's really kind of going hardcore right now, but just maybe a little bit of a weather report for what's ahead coming up in the summer when we have to get ready. I would be interested if you have anything to offer at this point.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is, the position that you see vacant is a position that we've held vacant for the last couple of years now. And it's one that it's one that we've actually have tried. It's a corporal position.
Mm-hmm.
So we're running short one corporal, essentially. And where our problems start to occur is when we start having a couple other officers leave for whatever reasons, or injured, or something happens of that nature where we have to start running short, significantly short, and that becomes a little added pressure for the troops and all that. What we're dealing with right now with recruitment is essentially trying to. We have one person that's actually coming in for a chief's oral interview this week. Of the 3 vacancies that we have, not to include this position. So for, and probably for Councilmember Chirico, because he's new, we generally had, up until the point where we had kept this vacant, we were running at 25 FTEs, or 25 sworn. And then because of budget constraints and the way that it unfolded for us over the last couple of years, we have kept that position vacant and used those salary savings or savings to offset some of the gap that we've had in our budget. We've been planning to do the same thing for this fiscal coming up. So that part is something we've been in preparation for and have already made some considerations for that. We've even talked about possibly making that is actually backfilling the actual rank of corporal and letting the position that goes unfilled being a sergeant's position, officer position, which is a little less savings, but it allows us a little bit more flexibility in terms of providing an extra supervisor reposition at that level so that we reduce a little bit of overtime and possibly burn out a supervisor having to work a number of overtime shifts as a supervisor. So I think we've made some changes to our operations to accommodate the vacancy. It is a stressor. Any vacancy within an organization is a stressor. But I think that we've done a pretty good job of maintaining that. I think where we fall, where it becomes problematic for us is when now the number starts at 24, and then if you start having issues with vacancies after that, they need to be filled as quickly as possible. So, and I know that with the city manager's support, we've been doing that. We've been moving forward with that, and with the HR helping us with that, and Chelsea and everything else. So it's been really, that part's been very positive for us. But yeah, it is one of those things that you have to be mindful of, especially with a lot of the different changes in the criminal justice system as we've seen it, and the increase of property crimes and the things that are really become quality of life for the people that live in Los Alamitos. So we're mindful of that as well.
Yeah, I think that, you know, 3 or 4 years ago when we did the organizational change and really kind of added the second captain, did all that. I think the council invested in more of the institution to make sure that it runs really well. And I think the hard part is on the police officer level, which is, where the rubber meets the road. And for me, being on the budget subcommittee many years, I would always keep an eye on overtime. And overtime, as you get higher up in the ranks, starts to become more and more prevalent because it's a lot more money. So I really appreciate that you're focused on that and looking ahead. I'm also concerned about the labor market for police officers and the availability of people in the pipeline.
Yeah, we find that this is fortunate for us in some ways that everybody's facing the shortages of the labor market of qualified employees to become police officers. But as a result, we have to try to be as competitive as possible with those folks in securing those positions. But we're like I said, we have with those vacancies, we actually have interviews slotted next Monday for 3 more candidates are being interviewed for the remaining 2 open positions. So we are moving forward with that.
Thank you, Chief. And then City Manager, we've got union contracts coming up. I know that we're going to make some decisions coming up between now and June for next year's budget. Should we be doing anything from the council's perspective of trying to get ready for any of those types of discussions or anything?
Well, in terms of the necessary communication with the associations, in the case of the police, we've kept that vacant. There's not a recommendation to eliminate that position, but to continue to keep it vacant. There will be, in the matrix report coming up, there will be a recommendation to permanently bump some of these people that have taken on additional duties, create a couple of different additional new positions, and eliminate some of the other ones. So it's my job to communicate with the association on that impact, and in fact, I had a meeting last week to talk about it. We've been having ongoing discussions with them, and so I will keep the council in communication on that up to date.
Because once the staffing gets to full, and we get the new pension amounts, and then we're going to have to bake some sort of assumptions into the labor negotiations, could be a really tough year next year. So anything we can do outside, I know the ad hoc committee is totally there, but I just want to let you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So this is a good report. Anything else other than received to file? No? Anybody in the audience want to make any comments? I just want to be respectful. There's people out there. No? Okay. If there's nothing else, then it was received to file, and there's no need. Anybody else want to make any other comments? No? Okay. I think that takes care of the 2 items for the special meeting. Let me just make sure here real quick. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we'll be back at 6 o'clock for the city council meeting. Thank you.